Hello everyone and welcome to the Arbor Farm. Thank you for joining us for today's episode where I want to share with you how to grow sunflowers. Let's get started. Sunflowers is one of the most favorite flowers among consumers as well as growers. And so I often get asked the question, what is an easy flower for me to get started growing? And my top 3 recommendations are always sunflowers, zinnias, and cosmos. All 3 of those can be direct seeded, which means you can put the seed directly in the ground after your last frost and they will grow well and they will grow easily. So sunflowers is a fun one, and because it's so popular, I wanted to take a few moments to share with you some tips on how to grow them. If you're new at growing sunflowers, you might be thinking, well, when do I plant them? My recommendation is to always plant them after your last frost. The easiest way to plant sunflowers is by direct seeding them. That means you can take a seed and you can plant it directly into the soil outside after your last frost for the springtime. Or the frost of the winter has passed. So direct seeding them is really easy and they should always be planted after your last frost. You can also transplant sunflowers, meaning you can start them inside maybe about 3 or 4 weeks before your last frost and then transplant them outside. But sunflowers are very delicate, especially as seedlings, and so if you want to give that a try to get a jump start on the season, you surely can. We do that from time to time, but the favorite way is to direct seed them. So sunflowers are not frost tolerant. That's important. If your temperatures are going to dip below freezing, chances are you will lose your sunflowers. They are a warm season crop, and so they like hot temperatures in the summertime, and they grow really well under those conditions. Another question you might have is, how long does it take for sunflowers to bloom? Well, it depends on the variety that you're growing. That's the straightforward answer. And so the varieties that we grow are cut flowers for bouquets, and they are single stem varieties. Ours usually take somewhere between 50 and 60 days from the time I put the seed in the ground to the time that the flower shows up on the plant. So that is one variety, but there are also varieties that take 120 days. So knowing how long the seed is going to take in order for it to flower varies, and usually that should give you that information on the back of your packaging. You can also look it up online and see if you know what specific variety your seed is, and find out there as far as how long it takes for your seed to go from seed to flower. Another question that growers have is, where should I plant my sunflowers? Do they need full sun? Can I plant them in the shade? I live in the woods. Can I grow sunflowers? And the answer to that is probably not. Sunflowers like full sun. That means they need sun in the morning, sun in the afternoon, sun in the evening. So full sun. They thrive on sun. Thus, their name, as well as, they look like little sunshines. And they follow the sun, which is another topic. But sunflowers need full sun in order to thrive. So if you're in a location that is not full sun, you could consider putting your seeds in a pot and putting it in a location that has sun. Some people do that, and you can move it according to where the sun is, or if you have a patio that's sunny, that might be ideal. And so make sure that you plant them in a location that has full sun. What kind of soil do sunflowers need to thrive? You might be thinking, oh dear, am I gonna have to haul in a bunch of compost? Well, no, not for this one. It's another reason that it's so easy. They like neutral to slightly acidic, well-draining soil. So if you have well-draining soil, chances are you're not gonna have to do a thing about it. You can just simply stick your seeds in the ground and watch them grow. And as long as they have sun and water, they're gonna thrive. Now, we also get asked, do we fertilize our sunflowers? And the answer is no, we don't. And so our sunflowers just do really well. You probably will not have to fertilize your sunflowers throughout the season. They just do well if you provide the conditions that they thrive on. For the next portion of our video, I want to help us understand that there are a couple different kinds of sunflowers. There are branching sunflowers, like this one here. Actually, I did not plant this. It just self-seeded from, which never happens, from a seed from last year. And usually that does not happen, but I'm gonna flip my camera around here and show you a few things about this branching sunflower. So this sunflower is a branching variety, and you can see that it has several branches coming out of the main stem, with also several blossoms coming out of the main stem. And it is quite a tall one. I would say it's probably 7 to 8 foot tall. And so it is a branching variety. Now, it starts opening blooms from the top. You can see up here that I've already cut the top one off, and the next ones to open are already coloring up. And it will work its way down the plant, and it will open as it goes, eventually getting to the bottom ones. Now you can see that the stems on these are not as long. I would cut that, here, and it's maybe a foot long, the stem. And so when I grow branching varieties, I don't have as long a stem for my vase. So if having extremely long stems for a vase is something that's really important to you, you might want to consider not growing branching varieties. But the flip side of that is the benefit of growing branching sunflowers is you only have to plant one seed to get a whole bunch of flowers off that one plant, as you can see. Branching varieties also usually contain pollen in the center of the flower, and so if that's a concern, you will want to be aware of that. Cut flowers don't usually have pollen as far as sunflowers are concerned, and usually pollenless varieties are used, which I'll get into in a moment, and so that when they're sitting on someone's table, they don't have pollen all over their table. That's the goal with that. Now let's talk about single stem sunflowers. Most of the varieties of sunflowers that we grow are single stem. That means I plant a single seed, and from that seed, I'm going to get a single stem or one flower at the top. They're pretty tall, and so they have nice long stems and could be used for a variety of arrangements and vases and floral art and that kind of thing. So they are pollenless and are often used for cut flowers. They come in a variety of colors. I'm gonna flip my camera around here and show you our single stem. And this year we are growing just 3 varieties. We're growing White Light. That's the one like this here with white petals or light yellow petals and a light center. We're growing Gold Light, and I can move over here and show you that. It has gold petals with a gold center. And then we're growing the traditional sunflower that has the yellow petals with the dark center. And I don't think I have any of them open currently. I've cut a few already, but today I didn't see any that were open. I'll drop a link in the description below to the companies that we buy our seed from if you want to take a look just to see what we buy from. There are tons of specialty varieties out there, and I'm not getting any payment or compensation for recommending them, but just to help you to know what is available and what we buy from. I'll do that so you can look there. So these are our single stem sunflowers. You can see that this single stem comes up to a single flower at the top, and it's nice and long. Most are about 3 to 4 feet tall, some maybe 5. So it has a nice long stem, and those are great for cut flowers. Another question that I often see is how far apart should I plant my sunflowers? And the answer can vary, again, depending on what kind you're growing. For our single stem varieties, we plant them 4 to 6 inches apart. But for branching sunflowers, you can plant them farther apart because they're going to need room to branch out. The interesting thing about the single stem varieties is you can control the flower size based on how far apart you plant your seeds. Now, this is intriguing to me. Generally, we want ours to be pretty small as far as the flower heads are concerned, because that allows us to use them in arrangements. We don't want this big floppy head, in our arrangement. We want to keep them pretty small, and so we plant them 4 to 6 inches apart, which keeps them pretty compact. Now, if I were to plant the same seed about 8 or 10 inches apart, it would allow me to grow a much larger head on my sunflower. So that's an interesting thing that you'll want to know. The seed spacing depends on the variety that you're planting. Should you pinch your sunflowers? That means as they're growing, they're little seedlings, should you pinch them? We say never. Some people say you can pinch branching sunflowers to give them more branches. I've never tried it, but I will tell you that single stem varieties, like we grow mainly, if they are pinched, you will not have a flower. One time we had some rabbits come through and eat the tops of our little seedlings, and those resulted in no flower. So our recommendation is to never pinch. You might also be wondering, how tall will your sunflowers get? And that again depends on the variety that you're growing. The hybrid versions, like the Pro Cuts, the single stem varieties that we grow, get, well, you can see about shoulder height for me. So that's about 4 feet tall on my shoulder. And so, but the branching sunflowers can get really tall. And so sometimes 10 feet tall, depending on the variety that you're growing. So you'll want to be familiar with the seed if space matters and height matters to you. Somebody asked me once, can I grow sunflowers in pots? And I already touched on that a little bit. And the answer is yes, absolutely you can. Growing flowers in pots, though, sometimes is more tricky because the soil dries out faster and sometimes nutrients are deprived sooner, but you certainly can, and I'll put a link in the description below. We did a video a few months ago about how to grow sunflowers in pots, and we did that for Mother's Day, and people love those. So it is a possibility, and it does allow you to grow if you don't have a lot of space, or if you have a sunny spot on a patio that you want to take advantage of. You absolutely can grow sunflowers in pots. And then the final thing I wanted to touch on for today is pest control. Do you need to do anything particular for pests? Well, the only problem that we have had with pests where we live are deer, rabbits, chipmunks, and squirrels, and mourning doves. They like to eat our seeds and they like to eat our seedlings. So we have an electric fence around our property, and that helps to keep the deer out. And then I'm gonna show you what we have come up with as far as keeping the smaller pests out from eating our seeds before they germinate, and that has really helped us. So our problem is that we have chipmunks and squirrels and mourning doves that like to come and eat our seed when we plant them directly into the ground. And this is the way that we are doing it this season to resolve that issue and keep the pests out until after the seeds have germinated. So we plant our seed in our holes like you see here. This has not been planted yet, but will be later today. We plant the seed in the holes, and then we have some scrap wood that we found on Facebook Marketplace, and we have used this for many things over and over. And so what we've done is just taken a few screws and built this temporary frame around this row. And once we have the frame in place, then we have some extra window screens that we've put on top with some rocks so that the wind doesn't blow them away. And that keeps the chipmunks and the birds and the squirrels out of there until after they're germinated. So these are up. They're about 3 inches tall now, these little seedlings. And so we're ready to plant the next row and move our frame and everything to the next row. So that's what we do to keep our pests out. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. Our goal is to always create content that's helpful for you. And so if you found today's content helpful, we'd like to ask you to click the like button and subscribe to our channel. And as always, if you have questions or comments, please drop those below. We read every single one, and we are always happy to engage with you. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.